Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're focusing our lens on a really pivotal, yet I think often understated chapter in television history. We are cracking open the files on Breaking Bad. Specifically, we're looking at Season 4, Episode 3, which is titled Open House.
It is a really fascinating piece of the puzzle. Usually when we talk about Breaking Bad, the gravitational center is almost always Walter White.
Right.
He is the sun that this whole chaotic solar system orbits around. But Open House is unique. It's a bit of an anomaly because it deliberately shifts that gravity.
That is exactly what struck me upon rewatching this. It feels like the writers just decided to take a step back and let the supporting cast really drive the car for a while.
Yeah, exactly.
It's almost disorienting at first because you keep waiting for Walt to take charge, but instead we were looking at an episode where Skyler and Jesse and Marie are the ones making the big moves.
Or spiraling out of control, depending on how you look at it.
Right, exactly, spiraling up.
And that shift is crucial for the narrative architecture of the season. We aren't just watching plot points happen here. We are watching actual psychological disintegration. We are seeing the ripple effects of Walt's choices on the people around him. It's the fallout, not the explosion.
So our mission today for you listening is to unpack exactly how this quote-unquote quiet episode does all that heavy lifting. We are going to look at the themes of guilt and the very fragile concept of masculinity.
Oh, yeah. The good one here.
And, of course, the art of the con. Because everyone in this episode seems to be running a scam of some sort.
They absolutely are. And we have a really great stack of sources to help us do that today. We'll be pulling from production notes and casting details.
Including a very famous stand-up comedian's involvement.
Yes, we will definitely get to that. And we're also looking at critical reviews from back when the episode first aired in 2011 to see how people reacted in real time.
Plus, we have some incredible behind-the-scenes trivia about how certain shots were achieved, which I think really changes how you view the scenes once you know the magic trick.
Definitely.
So buckle up. Let's start with the White family business. Or I guess we should be calling it the emerging White family criminal enterprise.
That is a much more accurate title at this point, I think.
So the setup here is that Walter and Skyler are trying to buy the car wash. This is the Allen one car wash where Walt used to work.
Yeah.
And where he was just constantly humiliated by his eyebrows of doom boss Bogdan.
Rick. Bogdan.
They need it as a front to launder the meth money, but there's a massive snag.
Right. They sit down with Saul Goodwin to discuss the purchase, and it is not going smoothly. Bogdan is stubborn. He doesn't like Walt.
Not at all.
And honestly, Walt isn't exactly a charmer in these negotiations. But what fascinates me here is not the business deal itself. It's the dynamic between Skyler and Walt and how they approach it.
Okay, let's unpack this because this is where Skyler really starts to shine. Or terrify us.
A little bit of both.
Yeah, depending on your perspective. She manipulates Walt into agreeing to the purchase. But she doesn't do it by begging. She doesn't do it by arguing logic or spreadsheets or anything like that.
No, she uses his own ego against him.
Exactly.
It is a masterclass in psychological manipulation. If you watch her body language in that scene where she's pouring the wine, it's so subtle.
Yeah.
She adopts this slightly lower status, playing the role of the concerned wife just enough to disarm him.
Just pouring the wine, playing the part.
Right, and then she drops the bomb. She mentions that Bogdan, the owner, insulted Walt's manhood.
That was the key right there. She says something along the lines of, he thinks you're not man enough to run the place. And you can see the shift in Bryan Cranston's face immediately.
Like a physical twitch.
Yeah, it's a trigger. Walt can handle danger,
Yeah.
and he can handle the cartel, but he cannot handle being looked down upon, especially by someone he considers inferior like Bogdan.
Skyler knows that. She knows the quickest way to get Walt to do what she wants is to bruise his ego just enough that he feels the need to fight back.
So true.
She frames the purchase of the car wash not just as a business decision, but as a way for Walt to reclaim his dignity.
It's incredible because she is essentially weaponizing his toxic masculinity against him. She knows he needs to win. And Entertainment Weekly actually pointed this out in their review at the time.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, they noted that this whole episode is wrestling with the idea of masculinity. Skyler is asserting herself in Walt's world while Walt is still struggling with his status.
She's playing 4D chess while he's still playing checkers.
Exactly. And what's scary is how natural she is at it. This isn't a woman who is hesitant anymore. She sees the board clearly.
And because Walt is so blinded by his own reflection, he doesn't even realize he's being steered.
So Walt is on board, but Bogdan isn't going to sell easily. He wants a ridiculous price, partly just to spite Walt. And this is where we get to the EPA sting.
Ah, yes.
This is hands down one of my favorite sequences in the entire series because it feels like a heist movie dropped into the middle of a really heavy drama.
It is a beautifully elaborate con. Skyler devises this plan to lower the price of the car wash because she knows they can't just offer more money. That would look incredibly suspicious to the IRS.
Right. They need to explain the money.
So they have to make the business look worthless. They have to destroy its value in Bogdan's eyes.
Enter the player. We get introduced to a character named Patrick Kuby. And for any comedy nerds out there, seeing Bill Burr pop up on screen was a huge aha moment.
Oh, totally.
I remember watching this and thinking, wait, is that the guy from the podcasts?
It's a brilliant bit of casting. Patrick Kuby is an acquaintance of Saul Goodman, basically a fellow con artist or fixer. And in this episode, he poses as a representative from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency.
The setup is just pure comedy gold. He goes to the car wash and claims the site is contaminated. He's got the clipboard, the jargon, the official-looking windbreaker, everything.
The whole outfit.
He tells Bogdan that the business is going to be shut down because of these contaminants.
And notice his performance here. Bill Burr isn't playing Bill Burr the comedian. He's playing a character who is playing a character.
Right.
He's being annoying and bureaucratic and officious. He's channeling every government inspector nightmare that a small business owner has ever had.
The way he is taking samples of the water and just looking at them with that highly skeptical face, it's perfect. And speaking of Bill Burr, there is a great nugget of trivia regarding how he got the gig.
I love this story.
Yeah, apparently he didn't just stumble into it or get headhunted by an agent. He specifically sought to be on the show.
Yes, he was a massive fan. He expressed interest directly to the casting directors Sharon Biley and Sherry Thomas. And the creator, Vince Gilligan, admitted that the writers were already huge fans of his.
That's right.
Gilligan said, quote, "We just waste so much time here in the writer's room by getting on YouTube and watching some of his routines."
That is hilarious to picture. Just imagine the Breaking Bad writer's room, arguably the most intense storytelling engine on TV at the time, procrastinating by watching Bill Burr rant about population control or sports.
Right, but it makes sense why the dialogue fits him so well, has that very specific rhythm.
It does, and the con works perfectly. Bogdan is terrified of the government crackdown and the potential costs of the cleanup. It's a classic fear of loss tactic.
So the outcome is that Bogdan sells the car wash to Skyler and Walt. And get this, he sells it for a lower price than Skyler's original offer.
Amazing.
She didn't just get the car wash, she absolutely crushed him in the negotiation. She beat him into submission without ever raising her voice.
And that brings us to the critical analysis of Skyler's character arc here. TV Fanatic had a review that compared Skyler's calculated approach to drug dealing, or rather money laundering, to Gus Fring's personality.
Whoa. Comparing Skyler to Gus, that is heavy. Gus is the ultimate villain at this point in the show.
It is heavy, but think about the methodology. It's cool and calculated and unemotional and utterly effective. Gus hides in plain sight, and Skyler is learning to do the exact same thing.
That's a really good point. New York Magazine noted this transformation as well, actually. They described her shift from concerned wife to competent criminal partner.
It raises a really fascinating question for you listening. Was she always this capable? I mean, we spent seasons watching her be the victim or the barrier to Walt's fun, but was this part of her personality just dormant, waiting for the right or maybe the wrong circumstances to wake it up?
That is the ambiguity the show just loves to play with. It challenges the whole nature versus nurture debate. Did the situation make her this way, or did the situation just reveal who she always was deep down?
It's chilling when you think about it. But while the Whites are having this massive success in their criminal enterprise, high fives all around, essentially things are looking very, very different for Jesse Pinkman.
Yeah, we're pivoting now to the much darker side of the episode.
The contrast is just jarring, and it's intentionally so. While the Whites are solidifying their future, Jesse is spiraling because of his past, specifically the murder of Gale in the previous season finale.
The atmosphere at Jesse's house is just nightmare fuel.
Yeah,
it's not a party, it's a distraction.
Yeah.
We see continuous drug-fueled orgies. The house is becoming completely decrepit. There is graffiti on the walls. It's total chaos.
It's a physical manifestation of his internal state. His mind is a mess, so his house is a mess. And there is a specific detail in the source material that really highlights this self-destructive apathy. Jesse is throwing crumpled dollar bills at a sleeping man.
Right. I remember this scene vividly. The guy is passed out and he's wearing a dress shirt and tie, but no pants.
Oh!
Which is such a weird, vivid image on its own.
Very Breaking Bad.
Yes, and Jesse's just tossing money at him, trying to get it into his open mouth like a game of quarters.
It's profoundly sad. He is literally throwing away the money he killed for. The money that was supposed to solve his problems is now just trash to him. It has no value because the cost of getting it was his soul.
And here is a fantastic production secret about that specific shot.
Yes.
You might think, oh, Aaron Paul must have practiced that throw 100 times to get it right.
Oh, right, the trivia.
Yeah, it wasn't Aaron Paul making those shots. It was actually the property master, Trina Siapi, who was standing off screen.
No way.
Yes, they set up the camera angle so you see Jesse's hand, but the actual throw came from Trina. And get this, she got the bill into the actor's mouth on her second try.
That is impressive aim. I mean, I couldn't do that.
Same. But narratively, it emphasizes how disconnected Jesse is. He's just going through the motions. And to try and escape this constant noise, we see Jesse trying to clear his head with go-karts.
The go-karts. Those scenes are visually stunning, but emotionally, they are just completely empty. He's riding around this track totally alone. The colors are really bright. The noise of the engine is super loud, but his face is just dead.
And an interesting fact about this plot point, it was actually inspired by real life.
Really?
Yeah, Aaron Paul and the crew actually used to go kart racing in Albuquerque between filming as a way to blow off steam.
That is a great example of art imitating life, but heavily twisted for the narrative. In reality, it was fun for the cast. It was a way to bond. But in the show, they strip away the bonding completely. Jesse is doing a fun activity, but because he's alone and so traumatized, it becomes just another form of noise.
A desperate attempt to feel something, or perhaps to feel nothing at all.
And we have to talk about the sound of guilt here. The music choice for these scenes is incredibly specific. The song is If I Had a Heart by Fever Ray.
Oh, that track is haunting. It is so visceral.
It's got that throbbing, dark, underwater feel to it. The music supervisor, Thomas Golubich, said he wanted a muted, loud sort of feel.
Right, he mentioned in interviews that he actually tried other genres first for the house party scenes.
Oh, what did they try?
They looked at punks. They looked at dubstep, hip-hop things you would normally expect at a meth-fueled party in Albuquerque. But they felt too aggressive or too energetic. They implied a kind of fun or aggression that Jesse simply wasn't feeling.
Right.
He wanted something that delved deeper into Jesse's headspace.
And If I Had a Heart captures that perfectly. It matches the full, heavy darkness of the party. It's not a celebration. It's a funeral dirge that just never ends. The lyrics themselves, if I had a heart, I could love you, they speak directly to his feeling of being hollowed out.
And adding to all that paranoia is the detail of Tyrus Kitt. He's Gus's other henchman, the one who took over for Victor. And he's watching Jesse from a car outside.
It's just sitting there.
Yeah, so even in his chaos, Jesse's being observed. He's never truly alone, yet he's completely isolated.
It's a tragic paradox. He surrounds himself with people to avoid being alone with his thoughts, but he's being watched by a predator. Now, speaking of acting out to cope with stress, we need to talk about Marie Schrader. This is the third pillar of the episode.
Marie often gets a bad rap from fans, but this episode is really essential for understanding her psychology. She relapses into her kleptomania here.
We saw this way back in season 1 with the tiara and the shoes, but it is back with a vengeance here in season 4, and the context is pretty clear. Hank is treating her terribly.
Well, he's awful to her.
He's recovering from his gunshot wounds, he's bitter, he's angry, and he's giving her the cold shoulder constantly.
He is verbally abusive, frankly. He isolates himself with his his rocks, and shuts her out.
Minerals, right.
So she seeks a respite. That's actually how Vince Gilligan described it. She starts hitting up these real estate open houses. But she's not just looking around. She was creating these elaborate fake backstories for herself.
I have to be honest, watching Marie in this episode actually made me really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Not just because of the stealing, but because of the lies. The stealing almost felt secondary to the fantasy she was spinning. Did you get that vibe?
Oh, absolutely. The stealing is just the souvenir, right? The real drug here is the reinvention. When she walks into those open houses, she isn't Marie Schrader, the wife of a bitter, bedridden DEA agent. She's, well, who were some of the people she pretended to be?
Let's see, she was Tori, I think. And then she was a divorcee with a darker backstory at another house.
Tori Costner, I believe.
Yeah.
Which is a whole other layer of psychology. Putting a famous last name to imply status or connection.
Oh, right, Costner.
But you're right to feel uncomfortable. It's because we're watching someone dissociate in real time. It's not just kleptomania in the strict medical sense. It's a full-blown identity crisis. She is trying on other lives because her current life is just unbearable.
And while she's there in these other lives, she's swiping things, spoons, figurines, whatever she can fit in her bag. It seems so petty. Like, why risk jail for a spoon?
It's a control mechanism. Her life at home is completely out of control. Hank controls the environment, the mood, the television, everything.
Yeah.
Stealing these small items gives her a tiny hit of dopamine, a secret sense of agency. It's like her saying, I took this. This is mine. I have a secret.
But like all sprees on this show, it eventually comes to an end. She gets busted. A realtor, played by guest star Jennifer Hasty, by the way, recognizes her from a previous open house where things went missing.
And this leads to the moment where the subplots finally collide. Marie is in police custody and she has to call Hank. It's her absolute rock bottom moment for the season.
And Hank, despite being a total jerk to her at home, actually steps up. He calls in a favor with a detective friend, Tim Roberts.
Played by Nigel Gibbs.
Right. Hank gets Marie out of charges. But here's the twist. This isn't just a get-out-of-jail-free card. Roberts asks for something in return. And not from Marie, but from Hank.
This is the catalyst. This is the moment the entire series pivots, and it happens almost by accident. Roberts asks for Hank's help on a murder case. He hands him a lab notebook found at the scene.
The Gale notebook.
Exactly. At first, Hank shoves it away. He wants absolutely nothing to do with it. He's wallowing in his depression. But the episode ends with the strong implication that he begins reading it.
And that is the moment everything changes. Marie's acting out inadvertently brings the investigation right back to Walt's doorstep. If she hadn't stolen that spoon, if she hadn't gotten caught, Hank might never have looked at that notebook. He might have just stayed in bed with his minerals forever.
It is the chaos theory of Breaking Bad. A butterfly flaps its wings, or Marie steals a figurine, and the drug empire eventually crumbles. It shows how interconnected these characters are even when they aren't in the same room.
It really does. Let's shift gears a bit to the look and feel of the episode. We've talked a lot about the plot, but the direction here is really distinct. This episode was directed by David Slade.
Yes, and David Slade is a very interesting choice. He comes from a background of horror and highly stylized films. He did Hard Candy and 30 Days of Night.
Oh, wow.
This was actually his first time directing for television, and critics took note of his style immediately. Alan Sepinwall, a very prominent TV critic, praised the direction, specifically the jump shots in Jesse's scenes.
Those jump cuts really add to that disoriented feeling we were talking about earlier. It's jerky, it's anxious. But there's another visual technique that plays a huge role here that I want to drill down on, and that's the surveillance camera.
Yes. We have this subplot where Walt realizes there is a motion-detecting camera installed in the meth lab.
He is furious. He absolutely hates being watched. He flips off the camera. He stares at it aggressively.
Gilligan called this brinkmanship and gamesmanship. It's Gus Fring's way of messing with Walt's head without saying a single word. It's the panopticon effect. You behave differently when you know you're being watched.
There is a very specific visual texture in this episode when we see through that camera. It happens when Walt looks up at that motion detector. The image shifts entirely. It gets ugly.
It gets grainy. This is a brilliant directorial choice by David Slade. Usually on a show of this caliber, which is shot on 35mm film, which is expensive and beautiful, if they want a security camera shot, they film it on the high-quality cameras and then degrade it later in post-production. They add digital noise, they desaturate it.
But that never looks quite right, does it? It always looks like a movie version of a security camera.
Exactly. It feels fake.
Oh.
So here, they literally use the lens of the actual prop. They're recording onto a cheap digital sensor inside that motion detector housing.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's why you get those pillar box black bars on the side. The aspect ratio is completely wrong. The dynamic range is crushed, so the blacks are muddy and the whites are blown out.
It makes the viewer feel voyeuristic. Like we aren't watching a prestige TV show anymore. We're the ones sitting in the security room at Palos Hermanos spying on Walt right alongside Gus. It implicates us in the surveillance.
Which naturally increases the tension. We are complicit. It breaks the fourth wall of the cinematic quality and drops us directly into the gritty reality of the lab.
So what does this all mean in the grand scheme? Let's look at the reception. How did the world react to Open House back in 2011? Because this is a slower episode, do people appreciate it?
Well, the numbers were solid. It had 1.4 million viewers. That's a 0.7 rating in the key demographic.
Not bad.
No, for a cable drama in 2011, those are respectable numbers, though.
Okay.
Breaking Bad was definitely still growing its audience at this point.
But the reviews were a bit of a mixed bag, right?
They really were. The Los Angeles Times was very high on it.
Yeah.
Emily St. James called it one of the best episodes the show has ever done.
High praise.
Yes. She argued that showing how Walt's actions ripple out to others, Skyler, Jesse, Marie, made the world feel significantly richer. She appreciated the break from the constant Walt in danger plot engine.
And IGN agreed, calling it a solid improvement over the previous 2 episodes. They really liked the comedy relief from Betsy Brandt as Marie finding that delicate balance between the funny Tori Costner stuff and the really sad reality of her marriage.
Which is totally valid.
Yeah.
But not everyone was convinced. Slate writers felt the Jesse scenes were a bit over the top.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they thought the level of decrepitude was maybe pushing it too far, bordering on melodrama. They felt that the House of Horrors trope was just a bit heavy-handed.
I can see that. It is extreme. The pizza on the roof is one thing, but the house party is a whole other level. And they also felt Skyler's concern for Walt's safety felt out of character given where they were in the relationship at that exact moment. They argued she should be more detached.
But I think the most interesting critical takeaway comes from Entertainment Weekly. They focused entirely on that theme of masculinity that we touched on earlier.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The script seems to be asking, what does it mean to be a strong man?
Exactly. Look at the men in this episode. You have Walt, whose manhood is so incredibly fragile that the mere mention of an insult by Bogdan sets him off on a path of petty revenge.
Right.
Then you have Hank, who has lost his physical strength and is taking his deep insecurities out on his wife just to feel powerful again. And you have Jesse, who is completely numb, unable to process his emotions and engaging in massive self-destruction.
None of them are strong in the traditional sense. They are all entirely broken.
And then you have the women. Skyler is the one executing the real power plays, negotiating the deals and controlling the narrative. Marie is the one taking action to escape her reality, albeit very destructively.
It's a total subversion of the traditional roles. The strong men are crumbling or flailing, and the women are adapting or at least reacting in ways that actually drive the plot forward. Skyler's becoming the partner Walt needs, but doesn't necessarily want.
It's also worth noting that the supporting cast really got their moment in the sun here.
Yeah.
Betsy Brandt said this was her favorite episode of the season to shoot, because she finally got to do something other than wear purple and nag Hank.
Yeah, she got to play a character within a character.
And critics generally praised the show for having the confidence to put Walt in the background. It proved that Breaking Bad wasn't just the Walter White show. It was an ensemble piece with deep, complex characters across the board. You could spend an hour with just Marie and Skyler and still have deeply compelling television.
Absolutely. It showed the depth of the bench. So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's summarize what we've uncovered for you. Open House isn't just a filler episode or a breather between explosions. It's a bridge.
It connects the dots. It bridges Skyler's transition deeper into the criminal world. She's no longer just an accomplice. She's an active player, maybe even the MVP of the operation at this stage.
Definitely.
And it pushes Jesse further into his depression, setting the stage for his volatile, unpredictable behavior that will essentially define the rest of the season.
And inadvertently, through Marie's kleptomania, it brings Hank back into the game. That notebook is a ticking time bomb that has now been placed in the hands of the one man who can detonate it.
Precisely. The pieces are moving into place for the explosive conflicts that define the rest of Season 4. The fuse is lit in this episode, even if we don't hear the bang yet.
Now, before we sign off, I want to leave you with a provocative thought. We talked a lot about Skyler's manipulation of Walt and her skill in the con against Bogdan. The critics debated if this was too sudden, but ask yourself this. Was she arguably always capable of this? Did she always have this Machiavellian streak, and she just lacked the opportunity or the necessity to use it until now?
It's the age-old question of nature versus nurture, or perhaps circumstance versus character. Was the Heisenberg potential always in Walt? Was the Lady Macbeth potential always in Skyler?
Something to mull over as you rewatch the source material. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the darker corners of Albuquerque.
Until next time, keep questioning the narrative.
See you next time.